So I wanted to talk about this character, Mara Jade, who's one of my personal favorite Star Wars characters from the EU. I love that Mara Jade started off on the wrong side of the fence, being the Emperor's hand and being a weapon for the Empire, and then changed sides and ultimately became a Jedi and the wife of Luke Skywalker. I think she's a very interesting character in the regard of the transformation that she went through over the course of her story. But for the purpose of this video, I simply wanted to talk about what role Mara Jade could play in Episode 8, or really more of a Mara Jade-like character in the regards of her being the wife of Luke Skywalker and possibly the mother of Rey. I believe that if we see a Mara Jade-like character in Star Wars Episode 8, then that will pretty much confirm that Rey is Luke's daughter before we get the actual confirmation that Rey is Luke's daughter, if it ends up going down that way, because I don't think that they would introduce a character and establish that character as Luke's wife and then not explore that and not go with the reveal that Rey is his daughter. So taking that into account, this video is talking about, we're speculating that in fact Rey is Luke's daughter and that Mara Jade is her mother. So Mara Jade in the EU was a Jedi, and we know from the opening crawl of The Force Awakens that Luke is actually the last Jedi left alive, so the only way Mara Jade could be used or introduced would be in a Force vision or a flashback, more likely a Force vision. I believe it's entirely plausible for Luke to take a wife after he sets up a new Jedi Order, since it would be him in control of the new order and the old ways of doing things would be thrown out to accommodate the new ways and the new Jedi Order. I think it's fairly obvious that The Force Awakens and movies to come have been taking beats from the EU. I think Kylo Ren and the Jason Solo parallel is a perfect example of that. How a character who comes from the Skywalker lineage, who is the son of Han and Leia, turns out to be bad, with Darth Caedus in the EU, who was once Jason Solo, and now we have Ben Solo from The Force Awakens, who has now become Kylo Ren, both agents of the dark side, and I feel that they will continue to do that in later episodes with Mara Jade in particular. We might not even end up seeing Mara Jade in full. We could just hear her voice in a flashback, or Luke could even just explain that he took a wife and that they had a child, and then Luke decided to leave the child on Jakku for the child's safety and then went off into exile. But for that to happen, we have to have a Mara Jade-like character at least mentioned. Mara Jade in the EU was also a very self-sufficient character. She didn't really take crap from anyone, and she could really take care of herself, which may explain why Rey kind of acts that way as well. She could get that from her mother, because while Luke Skywalker has that way, he's even a little bit more passive than Mara Jade was in the EU. I also think that keeping the background of the Mara Jade character would be important as well, or even give us a new one that would be just as interesting. But I think that's important to have a character who started off as the Emperor's hand under the guise of the Empire and then slowly turned to become a Jedi and part of Luke's new Jedi Order. That would be very interesting, and that's why I think Mara Jade's a great character. Not only is she a great character in her own right, but her backstory is interesting as well. And even if they don't choose to go into the backstory of the character in the episode 8, like they kind of did with Luke's mother. They didn't really mention Luke's mother a whole lot. They just kind of got to the point that Darth Vader was his father. They didn't really go into the details of his mother. I think that we could see something like that played out the same way, with Mara Jade mentioned but not really going into it, and then have her gone into in more EU books, more canon books that would explain her backstory. I think that's the best way to go about it. But if I had to bet, I would say that if Rey turns out to be Luke's daughter, a character like this will of course be introduced, whether it be through novels or television series or even through other episodes, and fingers crossed that it does turn out to be Mara Jade herself, or a more Mara Jade-like character with some of the same character traits. Of course, being force sensitive, I think, would be an important role for that to be thrown in there. So anyway, guys, what do you guys think about Mara Jade showing up in episode 8? Do you guys like it? Do you not like it? Do you guys think that Rey is Luke's daughter, or do you think that she's someone else's daughter? Anyway, may the Force be with you. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and have a great day.